Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and today we're going to be checking out the Masters of the Universe 1/6 scale Keldor from Mondo Toys. That is right, my friends. Mondo's line of 1/6 Masters of the Universe is continuing. They just dropped this Keldor, and man, he got here so fast. This wasn't even a pre-order. He was like in stock and shipped. I was shocked how fast I got him. I've always loved Keldor, so I'm anxious to take a look at this guy. As you can see, the box is the same as the villain boxes we've had for the other figures in this line. I love this very cool Snake Mountain slipcover, but let's go ahead and remove the slipcover from the box. Let me get that out of the way here. So that reveals the standard box within. That's got the awesome bright blue on there. We've got this artwork of Keldor, which looks really great. When you flip it around to the backside, I mean, come on. How cool is that? I love the colors that they use on this artwork. Look at, I love like the mirror there with like the melting Skeletor head looking through, and you got the Vial of Acid up here. You got the Horde emblem. I love, like, look, isn't that like the rug from Castle Grayskull? Like the same kind of design? There's some real fun stuff going on here. Look, there's Battle Bones up there. That is really, really cool. Okay, so they have magnets in these boxes if you haven't seen these. So nice little magnetic flap that we can then open up. Let's remove the tissue paper here. And over on the side, you've got like a description of Keldor with a nice little kind of story for him. And then we've got the window box here. And there is some tissue paper and everything on the figure, but we'll get him out in a second. But window box that shows the figure and lots of accessories, 2 interchangeable heads. This guy looks awesome. So let's get him pulled out of the box and we will get a closer look at him. All right, so we've got our Keldor outside of the packaging. Let's go ahead and start by bringing in the tape measure to show you guys that in the 1/6 scale there, the figure stands just shy of a full 12 inches tall. So he's right there on par with the other Mondo Masters of the Universe action figures. And there's a lot of reuse on this guy as expected, but there's a lot of cool new things as well. So we are going to go over all of that. First of all, I kind of run into this a lot. I do have some looser joints at the knees, unfortunately. So, he's a bit heavy, and you got to find the right way to balance him. But once you balance him, he does seem to stand fine. All the Mondo figures do also, there he goes again. All the Mondo figures do include a stand, which has got just a little cradle under it there. So that will help them keep standing so they don't do shelf dives and stuff like that. So if you want to use that, boom, it actually does give him a much more stable base. Now, I want to point out that he does seem to stand fine on his own, especially if you like bend the knees and I've been able to get him in a lot of different poses for my photography, and he was standing fine. I just noticed that he does have a tendency to kind of lean forward a little bit at times. So if you don't have his knees positioned just right, that does seem to be an issue, but the stand helps out with that quite a bit if you're just going to have him up on your shelf. So just something to watch out for. So a lot of this figure does come straight off of the Skeletor that we already released, and the colors even match up really good, and you'll see that when we compare the two a little bit later on in this video. So the armor that he's wearing comes right off the Skeletor, same with like the loincloth piece there, the boot tops look the same. However, instead of having the bare-toed demon-like feet, we do have the fully enclosed boots this time. He's got the shoes on, which is really, really great. One of the other things about the overall design is, like with all of the Mondo Masters of the Universe figures, he is a bit more lean than you typically see with your Masters of the Universe toys. And, that's because the original figures and everything since has always been very beefed out and kind of over-the-top muscular. So these are supposed to be a little bit more well-proportioned, like with actual human-like proportions. And obviously, he's still really buff, but he looks really tall and really lean. But you know what? Keldor comes from the 2003 series, and the redesigns in that series kind of were a little bit more lean. So I do feel like it works really well. So let's go ahead and talk about that Keldor head there. The overall sculpt is really, really nice. I mean, it definitely takes cues from the 2000X action figure as well as his appearance in the Mike Young Productions animated series. It looks a lot like that. I've seen some people kind of say he looks like the Undertaker, and I totally see that. But I think it's a really nice sculpt overall. He's got that sweet, slicked back, long black hair there. He's got that awesome pointy goatee. I will say that the blue that's used on the face is a different shade of blue from the body. And I don't know how well that's coming across on camera, but in person, it's really noticeable. Not so bad, especially when he's like on the shelf and you're looking at him, but when you're really looking at it, it's a much deeper blue than what's seen on the body. So I would imagine it's because it is hand painted and this is probably more molded in the blue. I don't know what is causing it, but there is a difference there. So the black hair in the back doesn't have a lot of flexibility to it, so that is going to get in the way of the articulation just a little bit. You definitely can't really move the head up and down, as you can see. It really rubs that way, but you can still slightly move it side to side. And if you're not familiar with these, why don't we go ahead and go over all the articulation now. So the shoulders do have the hinges, though it's a bit tight, but you can see the arms can go outwards, they can move forwards, backwards. You've got the swivel at the bicep. The elbows have a really nice joint. You look at that. You got the extra elbow above the elbow as well as the bend, and it's a really nice range of motion there. Then you got the swivels at the wrist as well as the hinges. It's on a nice little ball joint there, which is really great. The torso is jointed, though it's pretty stiff, but you also have the ball joint down at the waist, so you can turn that and kind of rock it all the way around there. We have ball joints, the ball and socket joints there at the thighs, so the legs can go outwards. They can move all the way around. You got really nice double joints in the knees, so there's a good range of motion there. You can also swivel there at the knees, and then those ankles, you can see those are also ball jointed, so the feet can roll all the way around. They rock side to side just a bit there. So all in all, I'd say it's a pretty great range of movement. You should be able to get some pretty good poses out of these guys. Most of the articulation is tight. There were just a few loose places that I already showed you guys there at the beginning of the video. So the thing that makes Keldor so great, of course, is that he comes with a bunch of swappable parts for lots of different ways that you can display the character. So first things first, he's got all these interchangeable hands. So you'll notice right now we've got him with closed fists. If you want to swap those out, it's very easy to do so. You just pop these right out of socket there. You can pop the new hands in their place. What I'm putting in right now are his standard gripping hands. And the reason for that is because Keldor comes with dual swords. Now, this is really cool. So if you guys remember, or if you're not familiar, in the 2000X series, Keldor and Skeletor both wielded this dual sword. It was actually a sword that broke into two pieces. So this is kind of recreating that, but instead of giving him that unique sword that he had in that show with like the half purple, half kind of bronze colored hilts, they just gave him two silver swords that look a lot like the power sword. Now this is really neat because it also kind of ties into the original origins where there were two halves of the same power sword, and that's what He-Man and Skeletor were battling over. These do not fit together. They're just the exact same sword, and they're very similar to the regular power sword we saw with He-Man, but doesn't have like the piece at the end of the handle there. So these are really nice. It's a fun way to do the dual swords, and these gripping hands actually do a really good job of holding onto those blades, and you can get some really fun poses with them. Now, he doesn't have any way to holster these anywhere on him, so there's nothing on the back of his armor or anything like that. In fact, with all of his weapons, he doesn't have a place to store any of them, so that is worth noting as well. So the dual swords are really great. I like those a lot. We can swap these hands out for another pair of hands, which, as you can see, are trigger finger hands. And this is for his next accessory, which is dual blasters. Now, this is an interesting choice for me personally because this is a very uncommon weapon for both Skeletor and Keldor. It's not something we've really ever seen before, so it's definitely something new to this design. I feel a little weird about it. I don't know, like I just don't really look at Keldor or Skeletor as a gun wielder. You know, he's like a swordsman, but he's also into alchemy and magic and stuff like that. So it's a bit strange seeing him with some blasters there, but it's still a fun extra pair of accessories. It gives you something a little different to display with your Keldor, and maybe you're into it, and that's totally cool. Okay, so he comes with one more pair of hands, which is the big open hands. Now, these are the exact same ones that have come with Skeletor already, and you'll notice that these are much more wretched looking, and they have the long, pointy black fingernails, while all the other hands are much more normal. They have more of a human-like look to them. So this is kind of more of like a transformation type hand to use for Keldor, but it's really cool that it's included. One thing that I failed to mention, but I do need to point out, is the paint does seem to rub off quite a bit from the weapons on this blue skin tone. I mean, if you look at this hand that I just pulled the blaster out of, it left all kinds of rub behind, which is a bit unfortunate. And another place that I noticed that is on the back of the figure's neck from the hair. So you can see there's lots of scuffing up here too as well. So it seems like this blue is real easy to scuff with the darker tones. So you definitely want to be careful of that as well. So before we go into the extra heads here, there is one more accessory for Keldor that is very specific to his appearance in the original cartoon series, which is the Vial of Acid. Now, this is very important to Keldor's transformation because, as was explained in that series, he attempted to use this acid to disfigure Randor, or I don't know, kill him? I don't know. But it backfired, it splashed on his face Harvey Dent style, and his face began melting, and then he had to run to Hordak for help, and Hordak used magic to keep him alive, and thus Skeletor was born. So this little vial is awesome. It's not, I don't know if it's coming across in the video, but it is a translucent green. It's got a nice bone design on there. It looks very cool. You can put it in these open hands, but it also works much better for the gripping hands that I had out earlier. They do get a really good grip on it. So I love that he includes this because it really feels like a necessary accessory for a Keldor action figure. So that melting face, well, that brings us to the first interchangeable head. As I just showed you a second ago, you can easily pop the head right off the ball joint, and in its place, we can swap on this amazing melting skull face. Oh my goodness, I love this. So again, this is something that really got its start from the 2000X toy line because there was like a half melted face in that line, and we really haven't seen that since. So I love that we're getting that representation again. This is amazing. You've got this bone-like skull head here, which has got these translucent kind of green flames from the acid all over the top, coming out of his right eye socket. His left eye is like bulging red, like it's about to burst or something. It's disgusting. And then he even has an articulated jaw, which is really awesome. So you can get some really great poses of him as if his face is melting off. It is very gruesome and very cool. So of course, once he's done transforming, you can pop that head off and you can pop on a Skeletor head. And I love the Skeletor head that it comes with this one because it's different from the previous releases from Mondo. This one is inspired by the artwork of Alfredo Alcala, who designed those original mini comic looks back in the vintage toy line. So this is sort of like we're getting a vintage mini comic version of Skeletor. It is really, really rad. I love this. I love the glowing little red marble eyes. He also has the articulated jaw, just like the previous Skeletor. So you can actually move the head around inside of that hood. If you had the first release of Skeletor, you know how that works. It's really cool. And then that jaw can open as well. I will say it feels a little loose on this figure, like it definitely moves around very easy, but overall, I really like this particular Skeletor head. Man, when you get those open mouth poses, it looks just so awesome. I think it works really, really well. Now, the purple of the hood is a bit darker than the purple that's used on his armor, but that actually matches up with that first release Skeletor as well, because that's the same way that was. So this is really cool because it does give you a version of Skeletor to display, with the only real difference being that he's got boots instead of the open-toed feet, like the demon feet. So this cape is very similar to the one that came with Skeletor. It's got a real metal chain. It's like purple on the inside, black on the outside, but the difference is instead of having the tattered look at the bottom, it's a nice clean cut cape there. So you could display this on Keldor. You could use it to display on your Skeletor afterwards. Again, there is a lot of really great display potential with this figure with all of these mix and match parts. Alright guys, it's comparison time, because I do want to bring in the first release Skeletor from Mondo to show what these two figures look like side by side. Again, the biggest difference with the body is the fact that the Skeletor has those bare feet, and the Keldor figure has the booted feet. But it's pretty neat looking at these two different types of Skeletor side by side, and it is worth mentioning that if you want to put that Alcala Skeletor head on that first release Skeletor, since he's got the more proper feet, it matches up really well. All of the colors work beautifully, and it's just another way you can display Skeletor on your shelf. In fact, I've got 3 different Mondo Skeletors now, so here's a nice group shot of all of them together. So there you go, my friends. There is a look at the Mondo 1/6 scale Keldor from their Masters of the Universe toy line. All in all, I really like this guy. I have some minor nitpicks with maybe the paint color on his face not matching up perfectly with his skin tone, maybe with the joints being a little too loose in the legs, and maybe the paint rubbing off a bit too much on that blue, but I consider those pretty minor because for a high-end collector figure, this is a really nice one, and I personally have always really liked Keldor. I love the display options with this one with the 3 different heads. The Alcala Skeletor head is a really nice touch. The melting skull face, it's so awesome. So all around, I am very happy with the Mondo Keldor figure. So this popped up for sale through Mondo's website, and I believe it did sell out that same day. So unfortunately, at this point, your only chance of finding this guy is on the aftermarket. Thank you guys so very much for watching, and until next time.
The Toys of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe is available for pre-order now. This official guidebook is published by Dark Horse Books and features over 750 pages of photos and information on your favorite He-Man and She-Ra action figures. And don't miss out on the exclusive bundle pack available for pre-order now from PowerCon. This bundle includes the official guide as well as an exclusive character guide supplement that you won't be able to buy anywhere else. Don't miss out. You have the power.